Hi, this is a short video to introduce a new tool called Kusto Copy. So Kusto Copy is a command line interface or CLI tool. It's used to copy data from one database to another. And it works on both Azure Data Explorer and Fabric KQL database, so you can mix and match. And importantly, it has creation time fidelity so that your data from the source cluster has the same age and your data in the destination cluster, so your retention and caching policy will work the same. Scenarios it's addressing is region migration. For instance, you have a cluster with data in one region and you want to migrate it to another. And data separation. So you want to pull data out of a database to put it somewhere. Like maybe you have a team that has a table in your database and you want them in a different database, or even within the same table. So you have different tenants in the same table and you want to take tenants, move them to a separate cluster to handle that with different hardware. So that's also a scenario. So here's how it looks. You have Kusto Copy at the bottom running on either your laptop or any computer that can run the CLI. You have your source cluster on the left and the destination cluster on the right. And in between, you have a storage account. And essentially, Kusto Copy is orchestrating the source cluster to export data to the storage account and the destination cluster to ingest the data. Limitations, first and foremost, support. This is not an official Microsoft tool. It's not supported by Microsoft support. It's on GitHub, so we recommend that you don't use it in a production scenario per se. You can do a migration, test that your migration was successful, and that's good. But we don't recommend that you use it in your day-to-day production scenario. And also keep in mind that this requires export on the source cluster and ingestion on the destination cluster, and it therefore uses resources. And that's why we say it works best for medium-sized tables, whereas tables in the petabytes of data would be prohibitive to use this tool with. Let's look at a short demo of the usage of that tool. So we want to copy a table called Wikipedia, and this is on the source cluster. We see that it has some data in there. This is the schema of the data. If we look at this table has 300 million rows, and if we look at the extents of the data shards, we can see that it has 45 gigabytes of original data, 25 gigabytes compressed. And we can devise something to test the copy, like I call it a checksum, but it's not a checksum, obviously. Like we take the average of one column. Now we look at the destination cluster. I created the schema for the table. I ensure the retention is old enough to accommodate the age of the data on the original table. And if we look at this, of course, the table is empty right now. So let's use the tool. Here I'm running this in a Cloud Shell because it's a quite chatty. It emits a lot of commands from the source and destination cluster. So I run the tool is called Casey. The first parameter is my source cluster. So I say cluster slash database slash the name of the table, then the destination, again with the same notation, cluster slash database slash table. Here I don't include a table, so it takes the name of the table in the source. And finally, I give an address of a folder within my ADLS Gen 2 storage account where I'm going to persist the exported file and my checkpoint files. And I run that. The tool starts, and what it does basically is breaks down my table into different blocks, and it exports those blocks, and it ingests those blocks on the other side. So it takes a little while for this table. It will take about 10 minutes. So let's fast forward when this is completed. Okay, the copy is completed. Let's look at our destination cluster. We now have those 300 millions rows in, same data. If we look add a couple of extents, you'll notice that the extents on the destination cluster are this 2019. So this date is not today, it's the date that the data was created on the source cluster. And finally, if we check our little checksum algorithm, we arrive to 843,137, 843,137. So we're good. So we have the same data on both sides. Finally, to wrap it up, let's discuss add some advanced feature we didn't show in the demo. This tool is resilient, so if for some reason the CLI is interrupting during a execution, you can restart it. It will always keep the promise of copying once and only once your data, so you won't have data duplication or dropping data. You can do transformation on the source. So for instance, you could not only copy the table itself, but you could remove columns, filter out rows, or transform things. So basically, you can copy a query instead of copying a table per se. You can copy multiple tables at the same time simultaneously by one run instead of running the tool multiple times. You can also copy since last time. For instance, you prepare your migration, you copy the entire history of your data, and you keep ingesting in the source cluster. 2 days later, you do a delta, so you copy the last 2 days of data and you do that a few times, and when you're ready, you migrate over. All right, that is it. Please give that a try and let us know how it works for you.